All right, welcome to Up on the Bar discussion. A Dirt Track State of Mind and Moxie Media and Promotions. I'm the host tonight, Roy Bain, along with co-host Chaz Thompson. Corey Penfold may be joining us shortly, but tonight is an extremely special night to me. This is kind of validation is what we've been doing at this point for me personally. We get to have one of the drivers from the Top Tier Racing join us tonight. I'm excited about it. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jeremy Mayfield. I am so excited to have you on here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on here. Thanks for having us, and hopefully we'll have a good show tonight.
Absolutely. So I want to start off the show by giving a big shout out to my buddy Scott Ford. He told me the other night when I was going to talk to you, he said, dude, you don't understand. I got Jeremy Mayfield diecast, Jeremy Mayfield pajamas, wind chimes. Dude's a super fan, and so I know he's going to be watching tonight. Super good friend of mine and a crew chief for one of our other drivers out here. So there you go, Mr. Scott Ford. There's your plug. So, and, anyway, I want to get started because some people have told me a little bit about your background and stuff, and I happen to be looking on your page. And I know that you got to attend the SRX race this past weekend in Nashville. And I know if I pronounce your wife's name wrong, I apologize. Shayna is, I believe, her name.
Yeah, you're right. Dead on there. That's good.
Okay. She did a post talking about that's the first time you've been around those people in that garage in 20 years. Did you drive there or did you fly to Nashville?
Oh, we drove, and it was like 10 or 11 years, I think, something like that. No, okay. Not quite 20. I'm not that old. Not that old yet.
Okay. So, but she talked about the emotions building up to get there. Can you elaborate on that? Because I can't even begin to say that's got to be an extremely eventful drive for you.
Yeah, it was pretty, I don't know how to explain this. She said it was, with all of the emotions and stuff, but it was more for me, like, just not knowing, if I was going to be accepted again or whatever, just because of all the stuff that went on. And Ray and I had some troubles in the past or whatever, but we put all that behind us like a year ago, so that was gone. But for him to invite us to the race and us to Nashville, which was, one of my favorite tracks and one that I got started on, was just pretty cool, So, but to go in there and see, Bobby Labonte, Bill Elliott, Ray, Chase Elliott, all the guys, and especially a lot of guys that work on those cars, I knew every one of them, And I haven't seen any of them since all that stuff went down with NASCAR. So to be able to walk in there and see if I was, they could have just very easily, blew me off or just, not anything to do, not even want to talk to me, but that's not what it was. It was, I feel like I went right back home, and with Bill and Chase and Ray and like I said, and just everybody was just overwhelmingly made us feel welcome, and thought that was cool. And I just feel like right back at home and whether I run one of those cars or not next year or whenever, that race right there really done a lot for me. It just really told me a lot, and it showed me who my friends are still there. They always have been, and I missed them, and just good to see them. So whether I run a car or not, that was worth the trip and worth everything that happened.
Okay, I got to give that is awesome, and that reminds me of that song. I think it's from Cinderella, Back Home Again. So, that's very cool. Everybody that's tuning in tonight, I have to give the backstory because Stacy, Race Devil Myers Gordon, I know she had a big plug in there. She says all she can see is your icon. Jeremy burned his eyes really bad with a welder and can't hardly open his eyes tonight, and he's still giving us time to talk. He asked to please not be on the camera because his eyes are like, he said it looks like they're almost bleeding. They're so bad from the burn. So first of all, thank you for enduring the pain to be on our show tonight. And for anybody that's tuning in, that's why you can't see Jeremy's face, is because his eyes are sunburned, basically, for a lack of better terms.
And the bad thing about it, go ahead. Sorry. The bad thing about it was I thought, man, I don't have anything to do today, So good thing that was going to be the case. But then I forgot about the show tonight, so that's what was bad. And I didn't want to wear sunglasses on the show and look like trying to be cool or anything,
I was curious on you said you and everybody Evernham a year ago is when y'all finally smoothed everything out.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, he and I talked when they first started the series, and you know, obviously I showed interest in it, and he did too. You know, but I was just kind of late getting to the, you know, through the race, I guess you'd say, last year when they first started this thing. But you know, who knows? You know, I'm not sure who they're going to put in the cars for next year, but I know and I feel like that Ray and everybody at CBS and you know, Tony and everybody at SRX would certainly pull for me. So you know, we'll see what happens, but you know, they got to do what's best for them too in their show and their series, and it's a huge deal, you know, and I think it's only going to get bigger and better. So to be a part of it would be great, but if not, completely understand.
Well, what the reason it caught my mind is like that's over, you know, 10 years since everything kind of happened. You know, that
Right.
Had it been that long since y'all had even conversated or came face to face or had any exchanges of words, or was it, or what was the deal there for it to take that long?
Yeah, that was a first time we had kind of talked, and then Saturday night was the first time we'd ever actually been standing next to each other, you know, since then. So it's been, like I said, it's been a long road, and I just kind of, you know, pulled back and just, you know, just stayed away from everything pretty much. And I probably should have got out there sooner now looking back than what I have. And but, you know, we went through a lot of stuff happened in a short amount of time. And you know, to be able to stop, rethink it, and put it all behind you, and, you know, it's taken a while. So, but he and I both are just, we were great friends before all that. We went through a little spell, and now we're great friends after that. So that's the main thing.
That's good to mend fences, and man, after all that stuff, because like if me and Chaz get mad at each other or have a falling out, it's not so much a big deal, but y'all's was so much in the public eye. And I mean, there was so much this, that, and the other. I couldn't imagine going through at the level what you went through. That, to me, to mend fences after all that, that's actually pretty awesome.
Right. And that's the way we felt. You know, it was, you know, the media kind of blows everything out of proportion a lot of times. And my deal really got blown out of proportion in a lot of ways, a lot of areas. And so for, you know, if Ray and I could have talked a long time ago, we'd have probably worked it out a long time ago, never even went through all that stuff. It just the way it happens, circumstances happen like that. And you just end up, you know, not really realizing what all went wrong. I couldn't tell you today really what really created all of it. So, it's just crazy, you know, but that's life, and we've dealt with it, and we're still standing and still here and able to talk on your show tonight, and all the good and positive things are still yet to come.
Yeah. So you're talking about positive things to come. Let's go back down memory lane for you to many years back. Let's start where you started out in Kentucky. What brought you into racing, and what got you started in racing?
It was kind of weird. You know, I remember as far back as I can remember, you know, just riding motorcycles and just wanting to race. And, you know, I just kind of grew up just wanting to do it, you know, and not really anybody or one thing really inspired me. I just, you know, just riding motorcycles when I was 3 and 4 years old, and all the way up to the bicycle days to go-karts to stock cars, and, you know, just kept working my way up the ladder and just loved it. And that's all I really know how to do. And that's all I've really done, you know, my whole life is race. So, you know, I think if I look back and say, you know, just because Darrell Walter was from Owensboro, Kentucky, you know, that helped a lot. That showed me that, you know, at a young age that anybody can do it. You know, he made it from a small town and made it into the big leagues. So that inspired me a little bit there, you know, just trying to know that it's possible. And then, you know, I just worked hard and just made all the right moves and was at the right place at the right time, really.
Awesome. So where did you start at? I know you said motorcycles and whatever. Where was your first race at, and how did that first race come about? Was it go-karts, a stock car? Yeah,
I had a old yard cart that you just play around in the grass, you know, and they had a racetrack in somewhere like Sacramento, Kentucky, something like that they raced on Friday nights, and we decided, my mom and myself and a couple of my buddies and my stepdad, so let's go race this same Friday night. So we took it out there and raced, and we got beat pretty bad. And, you know, because I wasn't even in the same class with them guys with what they had for racing stuff. But went back the next week, worked on it a little bit, made it a little better, and got as best we could, and still, you know, was running decent, but not able to win. And then we found a used racing cart, and we brought it home and, put it together, and then ended up winning. And, a few weeks later, and then we just started from there, then we just kept building our little program we had up. And then we ended up racing pretty much all around the Kentucky area, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, all them places had little dirt track, go-kart tracks everywhere. And we just started hitting those and just started, winning and running good. And then when I was 15, we moved up to stock cars, bought I think it was a 72 Impala, and started racing Kentucky Motor Speedway in the bomber division. And, just from there, just like I said, just kept going and going and going and going, and ended up running late models at Kentucky Motor Speedway and Windy Hollow Speedway, run some dirt races there. And then moved to Nashville, was racing down there a little bit. And that's where I really got my big break, was Nashville, Tennessee, with the Sadler brothers, trucking, and Earl and Czech Sadler. They had a little team that they was running some cup races with. I went down there as a fabricator for them. And, they gave me the opportunity to drive a late model in Nashville, and then it took off from there.
Wow.
About what age were you when that was all happening?
Man, I started off racing go-karts when I was like 10 or 12 years old, bicycles before that. And then when I was 15, I was racing stock cars at Kentucky Motor Speedway and Windy Hollow. And I moved to Nashville when I was like 19. So,
okay.
At a young age,
so technically, in today's standards, you're too old. Because I was literally at a World Outlaw late model event a few weeks ago in Jackson, and one of the reporters used to be a development driver, and she was a woman who was winning super late model races on asphalt. She was told at 19 that she's too old, and they had to drop her as a supported driver. So it's just interesting. I mean, we obviously know that, but we wouldn't have drivers like you and other drivers out there, even with an opportunity in today's scenario.
Right. But I tell you what, though, you look at NASCAR, and, the whole time I was there, they was always, trying to look for younger drivers and this, that, and the other. And they got them. They got a bunch of young drivers, and all the old guys left. Earnhardt, myself, Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, all the legends are gone. And now I think you look at the sport and it looks totally different. You don't have the older legend type drivers who everybody looked up to, and as a younger driver wanting to be there and wanting to get to the Cup Series because it was so hard and tough to get there. And nowadays you don't have that. Nowadays it looks like anybody can go drive a Cup car.
Well,
I think it's taking credibility out of the sport, a lot of credibility.
Well, and something that I think, I heard you say, it inspired you seeing other drivers make it to the Cup level from racing locally. And that really made, in my opinion, when I talk about short track dirt racing all the time, but, dirt track race could be where it is. It's on the rise. Yeah, it kind of gets segregated as a lower form, all that. But the one scene that's got completely destroyed is the short track asphalt scene. I mean, if you look at short track asphalt versus dirt track race, I mean, there's people selling their asphalt stuff out to go super late mile racing, because you can make a little living and get a little fame. Right. And I think the reason that short track asphalt scenes kind of went away is because of what you're talking about. You used to be able to be, if you could perform well on a short track asphalt scene in that 19 to 26-year-old range, you may get a shot in a Busch car or something like that. We was talking about that on the last show. Dale Earnhardt Sr. left that local scene and got a shot in a Busch car at Charlotte. And the reason I think the fans were also coming to these NASCAR races is these local short tracks were bringing the short track fans when one of their drivers was able to compete against the big time series at the bigger stadium races. So you don't have that anymore. They're not. I used to be 450 pounds, and I lost the weight by eating right and everything, learning how stuff is organically made or right, wrong, or GMO'd. It's almost like the way they get the drivers nowadays is it's like steroids. They're shooting them to the top quicker than they should be, where organically the way you create race car drivers and fan bases is bringing them up in that older age range so that they build a name on a local series level. So by the time they come to NASCAR, they already have a fan base behind them. That's the reason they love a Dirt, Larson, or Bell, because they're coming from World of Outlaw sprint cars and USAC. Well, hell yeah, they're bringing fans. Whereas if you bring a short track guy down the street, the one who won that opening SRX race up there at Stafford, He's barely got a local, like I said, the local scene in
Right.
short track asphalt is so horrible now compared to other stuff. I think that's what kills it as well. Not only are they bringing these drivers and anyone can drive them, but you're not organically building drivers or fans, and you're killing short track asphalt racing.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, that sounds exactly right. And another thing, the way I look at it is if you look at, say, NFL football, I use this all the time, but okay, you got Tom Brady's, you got all the older guys that's been there, that's earned themselves, and they're what builds the sport. You know what I mean? That's what NFL is built off of, is those type guys. And just imagine if you pulled all the players out right now and put in, high school football players or college football players in all their places. You wouldn't have NFL football anymore. Nobody would be wanting to watch it because the credibility would be gone. And I think NASCAR's done that. They pulled out all the older guys that's been there and built, was part of giving the sport the credibility that it had. And then all of a sudden you take them all out and replace high school or college football players, or drivers right back in their shoes. And now that's what you got. You got a college football race. You know what I mean? That's why I look at it. You got you don't have the players there like you did. And you take Tom Brady out and what have you got,
Well, and then even, in a 19 to 26-year-old age range, say that's where they were pulling their racers from, a short track asphalt scene in that age range. At least you could maybe work your way to that point. You could work your way to a short track level at 25. You may really bust your ass from the moment you get 16, mow yards or whatever trade you learn, and can earn maybe $40,000, to get a street stock or something that you have to have. That's how much it costs.
Right.
So you can get guys who know how to work really hard for what they have and respect the equipment that they're driving.
And that's what I did. That's what I had to do, and I think that when you were talking like that, it's I can remember when there was you had your top teams and it kind of trickled all the way down to your like 40th place cars, the teams. And if you were a young driver coming up, you might get a shot if you were in the Busch Series, ARC Series, something like that. You get a shot at one of the lower teams. Then you work your way up through the ranks, and it's not like that anymore. When you can go iRacing and do good, do real good on iRacing, and you get hired to drive a Cup car, something's wrong. You know what I mean? And that's what you're saying right there. And it's taking out the short track racing and the guy that had to work on his chassis all the time and make sure his setup was right. That's what I had to do. And Lobani's had to do that, and Ernie Irvin had to do that. All those guys had to do that. Ricky Rudd did the same thing. But it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, you logistically can't get racers into your series anymore. When to get an actual racer, they have to go and compete on some local scene for several years. You're not able to get that because they're buying their way straight into the series before they even turn to an adult age to get a 40-hour-a-week work job, according to IRS.
Right, that's right. And you go to Hickory Motor Speedway, and it used to be there's a lot of drivers come out of Hickory, because they run a great local short track, series of late models. And but you go up there now and you see Kyle Busch has got a team, Earnhardt Jr.'s got a team, and all they're doing is somebody's daddy's paid them to run their kid and Hickory. How can you go to Hickory if somebody that's got to build their own stuff and work their way up the ladder? You can't compete with that.
And then they put Josh Berry in a team car who's better than all of them, and then they can't get them up there because they can't find a sponsor. Well, maybe if you resourced your time to try to get the guy's sponsor instead of resourced your time on trying to find the next 14-year-old with the $1 billion parent, you might be able to find a sponsor. They put him in the Busch car at Martinsville. He won it. That was probably the greatest win of the year. I see Roy's trying to kick in here back and forth. I love this conversation with Jeremy so far. Roy's trying to kick in here. I'm not trying to take over the show. I'm just saying it's a good combo. I like it. This is where it's at.
All right, so what you're just saying about the building the fan base, building the drivers up and all that stuff, I am going to ask you a question. In all reality, you just said you went to a great race at Nashville with the SRX series. So with what you just said, do you think that is what the attraction to the SRX series is because you now have all of those drivers that have, for lack of a better term, with the exception of a couple, have gotten their stripes through everything and gotten there? I mean, you got Michael Waltrip, who come right out of where you're out of. You got Tony Stewart, who started just like you did, rose to the top. You got Paul Tracy, who has a long history, things like that. Do you think that's what the attraction is to that series, maybe?
I think absolutely right. It's definitely the attraction. And I think that what the SRX series has showed, and I think the way that Ray has put it all together and structured it, it's about, NASCAR kind of got off on their own little world, and they thought that the fans were out there to watch NASCAR racing. They didn't, and not the drivers. And now Ray's brought it back to where it's like it used to be, and brought some good, old school drivers back into play. And now it's looking like they're there for their drivers. Not just the racing. So, I think it's definitely that. I think that NASCAR went totally opposite, the wrong way. And I think Ray has brought it back to where it should be. And I know they probably feel like they got some work to do, and they probably do. But for the first year, the first 6 races, they've done a heck of a job with it, and have gained all kind of traction, as far as moving forward in the future. So they're doing something right. And I think that's really the only thing you can look at, is that he's brought it back to the way it used to be, or more like it used to be, instead of like it is today.
But what would you say is like the end game for something like SRX? I mean, is it going to? I mean, are they going to open it up to where people are going to be able to buy a car and race? I mean, obviously, it's kind of like a controlled series in a way, where it's an invite only style situation. What is the end game for SRX? Is it trying to be IROC? I mean, it kind of gives that. Obviously, that's the last thing we have to compare it to, is an IROC series.
Right.
But it doesn't have current champions, technically.
Right.
It's got some of the fame because it's brought back those recognizable drivers, that when NASCAR was popular, including yourself. It is giving a guy a shot, but is Ray ready to build 40 cars and have them all the same? And then how do you can't really sell one and give one to a guy to put in a shop, because then he can alter it. I mean, what's the end game with the SRX? Is it going to be an IROC where it's an invite only? Certain people can participate. I know you don't know the plan, but I'm just saying, when you talk about future with SRX, I look at it like an IROC, an invite only, a limited amount of cars, limited amount of drivers. You can't really have a young guy say that's where I want to end up, because it's not something he can go to.
Right. You're exactly right. And I'm not sure that they know what the end game is yet. And I've thought about the same thing. It'd be cool if it was just a whole nother series where you could go and build race cars, and I could go over there and race, you know what I mean? And find a team or whatever. But it's not. So I'm not sure where it's going to end up at, but I do know that I think the fans were happy with it, especially the last race, and, Chase coming over and running and winning. And, and for the way I see things, it wouldn't hurt to have another series kind of, knocking on NASCAR's door, and that's one of the things they never had. And everyone that's done that, they've either bought or took control over. So it'd be cool to have a whole nother series and then, back it off, from where NASCAR is to where Ray and them's kind of got, but yet open it up somehow. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but
yeah, exactly. I don't know how they could open it up. You said, ARCA was probably the last thing alive. A lot of people don't, they may know or not. ARCA's bought now by NASCAR. They own it. Right. And before that, I guess the last one really real serious challenger would have been USAC stock cars back in the late 80s, and they died. Maybe ASA Hooters Pro Cup was always a V6 style deal local, so I don't know who else has last been the challenger.
Right. And then it was all pro cars. Late models have tried it, and, then NASCAR's bought them up. And so I don't know, it just seems like every time they got a little competition, they try to, buy them up.
Sounds like communism. Just saying.
So I have to interrupt what we're doing because this is an interactive show, and Corey's joining us. Hey, Corey, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I am sorry I am late.
All right, Corey Pinfold from Moxie Media joined in here. We're live with Jeremy. He's burned his eyes, so we don't get to see him, but we get to hear his voice.
Well, now you get to see my whole hotel I got to deal with here in Riverside, West Memphis, Arkansas.
So this is a live show, and we do interact with our fans, and I'm going to start off with Alex Miller. He said, Jeremy, what is your favorite track and least favorite track that you've raced at?
Let's see. When I first started, I had a favorite track. Pocono was obviously one of them because we won there. But as I, my career, I guess you say, went on, and I went to all these tracks several times, I started, to get to liking all of them as favorites. I know that doesn't really answer a good question for you, but, I got to sit here and say probably Richmond or Pocono, obviously, would be one of my favorites. But, I liked them all at the end, and then didn't really have a bad track. I had some tracks I didn't run very good on, but when I went into every race, I looked at it as like it was, I had to figure out somehow, some way to like the track, to run good at it. You got to really want to be there and want to run good. So I didn't really have a least favorite other than I'd say probably one I didn't care about going to. I used to say the road courses, but then I started liking those and they became fun. And but probably, I don't know. If I had to say any, it'd probably be like a Martinsville or something like that,
Did you ever get to go to like a Salem or a Winchester on your way up?
Yeah, sure did. I run both of those places, and
because those are some amazing racetracks from the outside looking in. I'm just saying
they really are, and there's nothing else like them two racetracks at all. And I know, we've raced on a lot of racetracks across the country, and I've never been on anything quite the same as Winchester or Salem. They're both really fast and just unique racetracks.
Salem's kind of like a half mile, I guess, Darlington. It's kind of like right up on the wall, skinny, apron comes up. And then Winchester's actually racing the Rich Vogler Classic today with the Silver Crown cars. I always thought that was interesting, too, how they would run asphalt sprint cars at tracks like that are crazy fast,
Right. I know, that's crazy.
In this country, Winchester.
I've never seen Winchester.
Jeremy, phenomenal racetrack. You got to be a man to run that track.
And a wing sprint car 410, you have to be more than a man. You got to be crazy.
You have crazy, no doubt.
I tell you what, like we go to Darlington and be sliding up to the wall, and running, fast around that place. And I know you said it was like Darlington, but I tell you what, I'd rather run Darlington than I had Salem or Winchester.
There you go. That's why I wanted to ask you. Those are some balls up tracks right there, boy.
There is. I've got a lot of respect for the guys that run there. I know Frank Kimmel real well.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I are good friends, and I know they ran there quite a bit, and he's good there, and this and other. But it's definitely it's a wild place.
And Billy Simpkins added a lot of comments on here. Billy is a big time racer out of Bakersfield area. I'm not going to read them all off, but one of the first things when you talked about said NASCAR's forgot its grassroots. Personality is a huge part, and a group of drivers groomed for Cup is bland. So that's.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and it's what we were just talking about earlier. And when you get to where you're taking their personalities away and you watch them on TV and they all say the same thing, they all act the same, it's just, I don't think fans want to see that. Fans want to see some normal, dudes. And just, I'm just saying this just to be saying it, but they've taken the normal kind of redneck sort of race fan out of it, and even the drivers, Sterling Marlin, Southern dude, myself, you don't see very many accents there anymore, Southern accents anyway, for sure. And, I'm not saying just Southern, but I'm just saying they've eliminated a lot of the race fans because of that.
Well, I think they took regular people out of the sport, wouldn't you say?
Exactly.
I mean, who can really relate to the life of someone who's got $25 million invested into him by 17 years old? How can you relate to millionaires? There's not too many people that are.
Right, exactly.
So I have to take a quick
think about Jeremy's career. At the time you got to run, Jeremy, you got to run with what I would say is the last era of true great superstars, and you ran well. I mean, you got to run with, legends like, Earnhardt and Waltrip. The greats, the all-time greats. You don't see that in today's level of NASCAR. You just don't see it.
Now, Jeremy, what you were from Kentucky, obviously. That's not too far of a trek to Indianapolis. Did you have any liking towards Indianapolis or the Indy scene? Because if you look at the stock car scene now, if you watched Indy at all, it's almost like that pre-split era when Indy cars started going down. They got rid of all the hard grit AJ Foyt styles. They started going to the money. It was buy your way in. And that's kind of what helped NASCAR take over. Were you attuned to the Indy scene at all? You're old enough to remember basically the whole history of racing when IndyCar racing was the number one in America. NASCAR was number two until you came in right at the perfect time with the era of change, technically.
Right. You're exactly right. And I think that, first of all, I never was really an Indy fan. I never really had any desire to drive an Indy car, which I would have if I would have been around it more, but I was just more around the redneck stock car, Saturday night short track stuff. So, but I know exactly what you're saying. And that's what gets me about, the changes that NASCAR has made over the years. It's always, if you look at all the changes, I can't name other than the safety changes, none of them's been right. They're all going in the direction of a Formula One type format or IndyCar or something. They're going the wrong way. And I don't know who or what makes all those decisions. I got a good idea who made a bunch of them. They got them headed this way, but I'm not sure what the deal is, and you would think that they would see that, that they would see, okay, well, this failed, this type racing here failed, and we're going down the same path that they're going down, and you're exactly right. NASCAR looks like IndyCar right now used to look,
Well, and the last step for that IndyCar era was when, of course, the split series. But I think F1 had a lot to do with that because I think kart was technically, if you look at it from a global standpoint, was getting bigger than Formula One. The kart series was. They took Nigel Mansell's, was the champion in '91. He came to kart in '92, I believe that was the right year. He left F1, guys. He left F1 to go to kart. I'm pretty sure that F1 and Ferrari didn't like that too much. And speaking of Ferrari, that's who came in and helped IRL with their new Dallara car, which is the same manufacturer who's building the next gen vehicle. So it's like you're getting with the same snake that bit the camel's back over there too.
Absolutely.
Right,
exactly. Go ahead, Roy. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have some sponsors on here and have some commercials queued up. So I have to take a quick sponsor break, and they're one of the sponsors who helped put all this together and do all that stuff. So give us about 1 minute here, and I'm going to click on one of the commercials. So hang tight, guys.
Tired of calling multiple companies to complete your low voltage projects? Minimize the hassle by calling Workman Communications, your locally owned one-stop shop for all low voltage needs. We tackle everything from commercial and residential data, telephone cabling to access control installation, CCTV, alarms, and audio-video solutions. With no job too big or too small, we'll ensure your project will be completed to your standards with precision quality results. Let's start a new project together.
Thank you, Rick Workman, for all you do to help put this show together. You're awesome. Appreciate all your help, Rick. So go ahead, Corey. We'll let you start off, bud.
I was gonna say, I know I'm late to the show, and I'm sure it's already been talked about. Probably the single greatest moment of Jeremy's career was putting the bumper on Earnhardt. Did we already talk about that?
Have not got that far yet.
I wanted to talk about that and get Jeremy's perspective on, in the car at that moment, what went through your mind and what happened to your career and fan base after that moment when you gave Earnhardt a little taste of his own medicine? Because I'll tell you what I saw after you answer that question.
Well, first of all, in the car, as far as in the car goes, he and I have been racing hard like that all day, back and forth, and we run about fourth or fifth, something like that. And I got to tell you something that nobody really knows, but it's kind of funny now looking back. It was kind of funny then, really. But Earnhardt, the caution came out, and he and I were running like fourth and fifth. Had been there all day. We really didn't have nothing for the leaders. We're just kind of stuck right there. And the caution comes out, and we're going down the backstretch, and Rusty and I could talk to each other on our radios. And I remember Rusty saying, "Hey, man, you're going to, the way he talks all fast and stuff, he come on the radio and he say, hey, man, you're going to put on forward, right?" And the only reason he's saying that because we used to do two tires a lot because my pit crew wasn't as fast as his, so we just throw on two all the time and always end up in front of him. So he's going to make sure I put on four so he'll beat me out, right? So he's like, "You're going to put on four, right?" I said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And I already knew what we were going to do, because it was coming down to the end and we need a track position. That's the only way we're going to get it. So I said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And as soon as I pulled in my pit and they put on right sides, I knew what my crew chief was going to do. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Let's go." So we took off and we put two tires on. And the funny part about that is I'm going down pit road by myself. Nobody's coming out. I passed Rusty. All these guys been running up front all day. Then Earnhardt pulled out because I thought I was going to be leading right then. Then Earnhardt pulled out in front of me. He beat us out. But really, that's what really got us in that position to win the race. Both of us was we both put on two tires. And as far as he and I racing together, I just stayed behind him because I knew that if once we started racing, everybody behind us had four tires on us, on their cars, so they'd be catching us. So we just sit there and checked out for a little while, and then I knew Ricky and I think Dale Jarrett was coming, and Gordon and Rusty was back there somewhere. Wasn't sure where he was at, but so that's pretty much how all that played out. And then I just sit there and rode until I knew I had one shot at it. If I'd have passed him in turn one and got him loose and he didn't wreck, he's probably going to wreck me going in his turn two, or the tunnel turn. So I kind of knew where I was strong at, and I shifted one more time than everybody else would. Like I shifted twice at Pocono at the times we were running there, and everybody else would shift once. You know, they'd upshift on the straightaway and downshift going into one. And I had the gear ratios where I could shift again coming off tunnel turn if I needed to. So, you know, I left it in normal shift mode, I guess you'd say, until we got to the last lap. And then, you know, I got to run off tunnel turn just because I downshifted back into what they call drive in, which is final drive, but I had overdrive too, you know. So I shifted back down, and that's what got a run on him and going into 3. And then, you know, I was just really just going to go up there and bump him and hopefully, you know, not wreck him, but hopefully just let him know I was there, you know, and then we could run side by side to the start finish line. But on my way up there to bump him, he gets loose and slides up, and we go underneath of him, you know, and win the race. But and then after that, as far as the fan base, my fan base was it was weird because the next few races I went to the driver's introduction and you know, they take us around the racetrack, and I got booed and I got cussed, and you know, I'd hear, "Hey, great job, Mayfield," you know, up against the fence, and then I'd hear a whole row, just, you know, another 100 yards of people just, you know, mad at me because of what I did to Earnhardt. So I'm not sure which way it went at that point in time, but I do know that at this day and time that I get a lot of people coming up to me that were Earnhardt fans then that cussed me, you know, broke their TVs and everything else. And they've come up to me and said, "Man, you know, back then you pissed me off, but I like you. You know, everything's cool now." So I feel like my fan base is probably bigger and better now than what it was back then for sure.
Can I have a couple of questions about that moment, because I went back this morning on the way home and I watched the last 2 laps of that race and then your interview afterwards.
Yeah, that was a little cocky, but you know. I knew. Wait a minute. First of all, I'm normally not like that, but when I just did that to Earnhardt and I turned around, this is what was crazy. I went on the front stretch and turned around right on the front stretch and went back down the front stretch in front of all those fans, and the whole racetrack was covered with beer bottles and everything. They was throwing at me. Everything you throw at me, they threw at me. So when I pulled in victory lane, I was like, man, I got to say something. And I knew what I was going to say because he done Terry Labonte that way a couple of weeks before that. So the only thing I come up with to say was I just want to rattle his cage a little bit because that's what he used all the time, you know. And that's really what pissed him off, too. It really pissed him off there. But I normally wouldn't have said that, but I had to that day just to get me out of there, you know.
All right. So here's my question about that after watching that. And I watched the Dale Jr. download, and you hear a lot of insight about Dale himself on that show that most people don't get to hear. So when he pulled up beside you and gave you the bird, I mean, this is when I first really started watching NASCAR because, dude, I was into rodeo and all that stuff. I'm late to the party with racing. I'm going to tell you that right now. So now in Dale's own kind of way, after knowing the things that you hear about him, do you think him rolling up and giving you the bird was more a, hey, good job, you got the best of me today, like a sign of respect more than, hey, if I could get to you, I'd punch you in the mouth? Honestly.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, you know, if you knew Dale Earnhardt, you know, and raced with him like we did all the time, he was such just a cool dude and just took everything with, you know, just professional, you know. And like I seen him the next week, and yeah, he flipped me off that day, and that was cool because that was his image and that was the intimidator about him. That's who Dale Earnhardt was. But, you know, I seen him the following week at the racetrack, and I avoided him, first of all. Every time I see him, I'd go a different direction for the first couple of days. But then when we went to the driver's meeting, we walked right into each other. And he just smiled, you know, just like he always did. And he knew that race is over with, is done. You know, he didn't carry no grudges or nothing. And we talked. And I told him, I said, I thought you was going to be, you know, madder than that, you know. And he said, no, I wasn't mad about the race. He said, the only thing that pissed me off was everything you said after the race. You know, and then he got me in his little headlock and kind of knuckled on my head a little bit, you know, just playing with me. But it pissed him off there a little bit. But that's what was cool about him, though. He's just such a true champion, and man, and the sport has changed drastically since he's been gone, and you know, it's just amazing how what one man done for the sport, you know.
And you know, you hear stories about Dale Earnhardt, and me, Corey, and Chaz, we did get to hang around him. We didn't get to see him at the drivers' meeting. That's something that none of us are going to have that opportunity to do. And talking to you, it's cool because we get to hear your perspective on that because I don't know if you listen to the Ty Norris talking about it. You know, he'd done so much good stuff, but then there was that other side of him that nobody got to see, and you got to see that. I mean, is there any perspective you can share about him that you got to see that maybe the average person didn't get to see?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about a little bit was Earnhardt just had this way about him that he carried himself and on TV and all this stuff and the sunglasses and just the look he had, and it just was different, I think, in the sport. And I think a lot of people attracted to that. And then his driving style, he drove, I don't have to tell you how he drove. Everybody knows how he drove and how many races he won. He done a great job. And, but yet off the track, he was as cool as anybody, he's just down home, just down to earth dude you could talk to and have a normal conversation with, and Teresa was the same way, that they were, if fans could get in the garage area after the hours when everybody's kind of away from the race cars and away from the everything going on and just sit down, they would realize that we're all just normal people. And I remember looking out, sitting on my car one day, sitting in front of it while the guys were working on it and seeing all these fans at Daytona, up against the fence. I mean, it was packed. Just, you couldn't, I don't know how many fans were there, but it was just like, it's just thick as you can get them. And I was thinking to myself, I thought, man, if y'all only knew, what was really in this garage area, how normal we really are, I'm not sure, if they really put us up on this pedestal or whatever, be wanting our autographs, because we're just, normal everyday guys, and that goes from Earnhardt all the way down, and Tony Stewart's just as cool as anybody, he's just down to earth, and they all are raised like that, and I'm not sure if it's just because I've been in the sport with them, and see that now or what, but they can sit on here and talk to us just like we are right now,
I think something that Roy was trying to point out with the tie, if you've seen any other sides, because I've listened, obviously I'm on the road. I drive around going to races. He's on the road. We listen to, you listen to things you want to listen to. Dell Jr. Download has some pretty good episodes. It seems to me from a few things and something that even Ty was and Dell Jr. was acknowledging one another is they were able to talk about stuff that wasn't always perfect with Dell Sr., like some very mean moments that he would do to Ty or would do to Junior, and they were able to conversate about that stuff because they got to see this not so glamorous, just smiley guy, the Ty North story where he kicked his knee after he twisted it playing basketball. I mean, that's a pretty mean act. Did you ever see any of those type of, if you listen to those shows, you hear a bunch of people have different interactions with Dell Sr. like that. Did you ever have any of those?
Yeah, a few times, but that's just the way he was, and it's just like us being around each other, I'm sure, if all of us hung out all the time, we'd be kind of, you started as guys punching on each other and having a good time, but he was kind of the, if he done anything to you, it was to help you or just to, just let you know that he's the intimidator, that's just the way Earnhardt was, but it wasn't really anything I feel like that was mean. It's just that he had to uphold his image of I'm the king of the block here, and that's the way it's going to be. And then I come in and I did what I had to do to win the race. But and then when I seen him, he grabbed me in a headlock and just kind of messed with me a little bit, just playing. But I don't think he'd ever do anything just to be mean that I know of. Now Junior might be able to tell you some stuff. Like I said, I don't
like
know
the Ty Norris and all them. They're around him every day behind the scenes, at the house and stuff like that, or the shop or.
But I know that he wanted everybody to if you were going to be in the scene, that's something else that I'm glad you said that, because to be in the Cup Series and to race back then, you had to earn it. And it's like we were talking about earlier, that's not going on anymore. Those days are over. And one reason why they're over is because of Dale Earnhardt's not there, because he has seniority, And if you were going to come into the Cup races and you thought as a young driver that you're good and you're going to come in and your daddy bought your way in, well, Earnhardt's going to show you real quick that it all goes back down to, I'm the man, and you got to earn your right. And that's what we had then, and even with Rusty and all the guys, all the veteran drivers had that respect from everybody coming in. And Earnhardt was the one that everybody respected the most because he had the most fans and he had the most pull, So it was a seniority deal. But I can remember being on the racetrack and he just in practice drive up behind me and just get me loose a place like Charlotte or Rockingham, just suck right up on you, just get you loose and you slide up that wreck and everything else. But he's just letting you know, hey, if you're going to run and play in our little sandbox here, you got to be tough and you got to know what you're doing and you're going to have to earn your right, and that's just the way you did everything.
I feel like if you did something like that, you might get a fine today.
Oh yeah.
They may
today
fine
would,
you because you mess with the rich kid. Don't do that to little sissy over there.
Right, exactly.
I have a deep, dark NASCAR secret I want to ask. And all the things that happened to you later on, I'm not going to ask about that. But in the time that you were in the car, did you get called to the hauler?
You mean anytime they get called to the hauler? Or
Yes.
Oh yeah, several times, and it was over stupid stuff too, like you said, and just I didn't really create no problems, I mean, I was I just went in and raced and thought that you race hard and you just be a good racer and you got it made here, I didn't realize all the other stuff went on with it, so I just kept my mouth shut and just a little bit. My mouth got me in trouble at the end, but I just played the game, just happy to be here. Here I am, just race hard and be as good as I can be. But to go to the hauler, you had to really do something stupid or crazy. And I've been there, don't get me wrong, but mine was more over stuff that we done on the car or something like that. It wasn't really anything I done personally, on the racetrack.
Interesting.
Right,
I want to ask real quick. I'm
Okay.
I'm interested. You said your mouth got you in trouble at the end. Now, this ain't even going to be about that, but it is about how things operate. I'm curious on your perspective on this. So we all kind of acknowledge that money kind of gets you where you're at and stuff like that today and everything like that. But it seems like once you get local racetracks deal with this all the time with clicks. It's not necessarily who's got the money. It's who's got the money, who's got the power, and who likes who, and who likes that, and who likes this person and that person. And that goes all the way up into agencies and governments, who's buddies and who's, it's more so a buddy system. Is that how it operates in that world too? Where there's, you can have all the money, but if I have more power and money too, I can either help you get somewhere or take you out.
Right. You're absolutely right on that to the T. And, that's something that I didn't know anything about was politics. I didn't know what politics meant. Hell, I worked on race cars my life, and, what little you've seen on TV, and I didn't care nothing about that because I was racing all the time. But, that's what it's all about. It's all about clicks and politics in one sense. And, you've seen a bunch of good drivers come through the sport and they're not there very long and you don't know why, what happened to them, whatever. And more than likely was they didn't fit in or they didn't play the game.
Right.
Or, it's one of those things. And that's sad because that's really one of my biggest disappointments in my whole career was once I got into the Cup Series, it was kind of like I was disappointed. And I know that don't sound right and I shouldn't have been that way. Looking back, I'd have been a lot different. But I got there and I was like, well, I used to be 110% racer and about 5%,
high school.
High school bullshit artist over here, And by the time I got done, I was 10% racer and 90% trying to figure out how I'm gonna stay in the sport. You know what I mean? And I was like, hell, I can't even do what I'm best at or can't even do what I'm good at because I got all this other stuff going on. Meaning going to the meetings at the shop on Monday. If you ran bad on Sunday, I'm wanting to know what we got to do to fix it so we can be better next week. You know what I mean? Or the next track. And I got to the point where I wouldn't say anything because you go to a meeting and anything I would say, I'm going to piss off the engineer, the tire guy, or the shop manager, or the crew chief, or the owner, or the team manager. So anything I said that was wrong with the car is going to make somebody look bad, and they're going to be pissed because now they're living on the lake and they got a $750,000 house on the lake, and they're not going to lose that house. Then their wife's on their butt saying you got to keep that job. So the drivers, obviously, you got to be careful what you say because it's not about fixing race cars anymore. It's about just saying the right thing, keeping your nose clean in the shop. Just, you know what I mean? And you can't race like that. And I was a racer, meaning if you can find something wrong, you want to get better every single week, make your car better every single week. And that goes away when you get there, and that's a shame.
So how deep did that actually, go? Could, like you were saying, if you said something team motor, tire, or something like that, did it go higher than that? Whereas if this other team owner, if you didn't like them and they would contact your team owner and say, he said this, she said that, was it really that in depth as far as it was just click based? And honestly, that's where I found, I was hauled out of a damn go-kart place in Indianapolis because the Earnhardt and Elledge family didn't like me. Because I've dealt with them since, but I was hauled out by police because somebody didn't like what I said about them online, and it was 85% true. 85% true, 15% comedical, which is why it even got out there. But I started really understanding. I was originally just talking about the politics and the money, but when you follow that money trail and you find out who has all the money, and then you see who talks to who and who associates with one another, it's really them creating their own miniature little government in these different worlds. Exactly. The dirt world or the NASCAR world, they have their miniature governments and they have like their little families of royalties and monarchies, and it's so anti-American, it's pathetic. I mean, we came to America to leave a monarchy so you could be judged on merit. Now it's based on families and royalty bases.
I know we've never met, but we're dead on, you and I are. I mean, that's exactly the way I've seen it, and that's you're exactly right.
I'm getting mad. I'm sorry. I'm getting mad. I need to be quiet.
I'm glad you're like that, man. It's because I know
Take
that.
a breath.
I could keep going. You know, I could keep going, Roy. You know, I'm trying not to slam the damn table. But
okay.
I tell you what, I look at it like this: if you tell the truth. And you can look back at everything I've ever said. I'm not going to tell y'all anything on here that's going to be bullshit. It's all going to be the way I see it. They might not be wrong or right in other people's opinions, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you a bunch of bull. And I've been that way my whole career. Everything I've ever said, I meant it and I believed it and I fought for it. You know what I mean? And what I found was if you tell the truth, and really in the whole world today, like you're talking about, the truth to get you nowhere anymore. And that's what's bad. You got to learn to be a complete bullshit artist, I guess, and then and tell people what they want to hear or whatever it is, and I can't do that. That's not the way I was made and brought up.
And then they have their fans or their allegiance that if you're talking to one person and calling their truth out, no matter how true it is, their allegiances will defend them.
Right. Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, I have a question from one of the people on here, and I've recently had her on the show, and a young lady, Savannah, that's like, I want to say she's 14 now, but does her own podcast. And I'll tell you a little backstory. She had me on her show, and this is where all of us as grown-ups, I have never been put on the spot like I was. This young lady asked me on her podcast if I've ever been bullied. I have never been any more floored than that question with her. But the lady that helps her with the show, her name's Annie Fritz. She has a page called Grassroots Racer, has some connections to Alan Huffman, who has a ministry and stuff like this. She wants to know, Jeremy, what is the best advice you have for youth in the sport about sportsmanship or downing other teams on their social media?
Yeah, I'm probably not the one to give the best advice on this, but I'll just be honest, the social media thing has changed motorsports as well as anything else has, and the behind the scenes part of it. Like you said, I've never been bullied on social media or bullied anywhere, like that, but I know what goes on. I know people, are on social media because it did me that way. I wasn't bullied, but I was certainly terrorized from a lot of people during all my stuff. But the best thing I done was not get on there, and not look at it and don't believe anything and what everybody says. And then if they do say something about you, who cares? That's the way I've looked at it. And I hate to tell a young person like that to be for as far as sportsmanship goes, but you can't listen to everything that everybody says on social media, because if you do, we'd all be sitting home, wouldn't say a word, we wouldn't be doing anything. So I'd say just do what you know is right. And there's going to be haters everywhere, no matter what happens, no matter how good you are or how bad you are. And, you're talking about your show here, how it's growing and everything's getting bigger. The bigger you go and the better it gets, and the more we talk like this, you just watch. You'll see what I'm talking about. You'll start getting the social media stuff. You'll start getting the people coming in to trying to take it out. And you know what I mean? And that's like that on anything, seems like anymore. And I think social media has a big part of that. But yeah, I think he's got to learn to, as a kid, I don't know how to say this because it's going to, it always affects somebody, but you got to just learn how to really not even fall into that trap. You know what I mean? That's more or less.
Don't worry about being accepted. That would be the deal. Don't worry about acceptance. I mean, I was a yes man for 6 years in track promotion, trying to do everything positively. And I learned you can't worry about acceptance. The only thing you can be true to is yourself. And if you want to look to somebody online, like my girlfriend, she'll go in the comments and be like, I want to, who's this? Who's that? Obviously my comments get very comical. I'm like, why are you paying attention to 1,000 bad comments when you could pay attention to these 10 good ones?
Right.
You know, I ain't worried about the hyenas out there that fall for the sheep. I'm worried about the lions that's going to, you know, take on them all.
Right.
You know, so you really have, no matter what you're doing, how you say it, somebody's going to say you're doing it wrong. And you just have to believe in yourself first more than anything. Absolutely. And then, you know, ignore everyone, ignore acceptance, which is hard. And a little girl needs to hear that in today's age where they're preached to do everything, get on a knee and bow down to be accepted by everyone. Please. No, you got to stand your ground on yourself and your personal beliefs and what you think is right and wrong. And if somebody doesn't like it, I mean, you could drive across the country and face them face to face like the Chads, but I wouldn't do that. It's not, you know, it can be sometimes interesting, but just don't worry about acceptance. Do what you do.
And judging other people, you know what I mean? Don't worry about it. Who are they to judge anybody? That's the way I look at it. And you know, I went through a lot of that myself. People judging me, you know, all these this, that, and the other. Then you go back and look at the backgrounds of who all was saying it. Hell, they're worse off than I could have ever been. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's what you're up against. So anybody that says anything, normally they got more problems than you got, you know?
Well, and you got to have respect as well. I mean, like you're saying, Jeremy, you know, don't, you know, people judging you. If you're going to put a comment or a thought out there, no matter what it is, you're kind of judging. So even if somebody's mean to you or says something you don't like, that's an American right, first of all, you know, and right and wrong is a matter of perspective. You know, so I mean, like I said, don't worry about acceptance, but accept the reaction because you're putting out your thoughts. You're going to get some back. I mean, that's just, you know, respect what happens in a way. Sorry, Roy wants to talk.
No, you were talking about America. I'm holding up the American flag.
So okay, I thought he was stretching back. I thought he was getting bored in the corner of my eye. I was looking at the camera. It's just, well, that's the deal. The biggest problem in the world today is people thinking they got something right or something wrong. No, bro. I mean, right and wrong is a perception-based thought. There is no such thing. I use 9/11 as it's a bad example, but it's a good one. If you're an extreme Islam, you love that. That was great. If you're an American, that was horrible. That was wrong. You know, so I mean, it's just a little example. You know, so. But if you are going to get on camera and you are going to say what you think, you got to be willing for other people to judge what you have just said. So I mean, it's just, you know, so accept the reality and you know, don't worry about acceptance. It's a
I mean, let me a couple of moments ago, you said when you got the cup, you were disappointed, right?
Right.
Okay. Take us back. The first time you got into a cup car, your very first cup race, the moments leading out to the racetrack, you're in the car, you're ready to roll out. What are your thoughts? I mean, you finally made it. Tell us what you're thinking as a young driver at the top level of motorsports at the time, I would say, on the planet. Take us through those few moments.
Okay, I went to Charlotte to try to make my first cup race, or Michigan is where it was, and had no idea. You know, I'd been working as a crew member on our team, which was Sadler Brothers Racing at the time, and then it was my turn to drive the car, and I show up in Michigan to make the first cup race, and we missed it. So my first one wasn't a very good example of what happened, but it was very disappointing. But yet, I was there. You know, I realized that this is tough. You know, it was very competitive at the time. But then we went right back to Charlotte and made that race. And that's the race I really went. And I shouldn't have said earlier when I got to Cup, because my first Cup race was the best thing ever happened. You know what I mean? It was like the greatest thing ever could have happened. Then we made another one. Then we went to Wilkesboro and made that. That's all good. But when I became the full-time racer, you know, when I started driving for Cale Yarborough, as when I was full-time Cup driver, that's when I started realizing, okay, it's about racing, but it's not all about racing. You know what I mean? It's about, you know, when I remember when I was first race I run, we blew a right front tire, for example. This was at Cale's probably second or third race I was there. When I get on TV, they interview me. I said, yeah, I blew a right front tire and hit the wall. Boom, or out. You know, okay, so Mayfield blows a right front tire. Well, Monday morning, the secretary come to me. She said, because I worked in the shop there every day. She said, Phil Homer wants to talk to you from Goodyear. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, cool. He's wanting to talk to me about the tire, figure out what happened or what went wrong, you know. That's good. That's great. I can't wait till Phil gets here, you know. And I hadn't been there long, you know, for that team. Well, Phil shows up, and he sits down in the office. I go and sit down beside him. He wasn't smiling, didn't have a lot to say. And he said, Jeremy said, I just want to tell you something. He showed me a contract that we had where we got, I think, 8 or 10 sets of tires, whatever, per race. I said, yeah, that's cool. Everything's great. You know, I didn't have any idea about all that stuff. I just knew that we got some tire free, you know. And he said, you know, we don't blow tires in the sport. I said, oh yeah, we do too. I blew one yesterday. You know, I blew one, hit right in the wall. No, he said, you don't understand what I'm saying. I said, what? And he said, you see that contract? We don't blow tires here. I was like, oh, I'm telling you, I blew this and this. I heard a pop. You know, I heard the fender come off of it. He said, Mayfield, you see this contract? You want to keep that contract, don't you? We cut tires down. You cut that tire down yesterday, or you ran over something. Oh, okay, I got it. I got you now. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. And from that point on, I never said nothing about blowing a tire. It was always ran over or something. Or
and a lot of people don't know it. That's when NASCAR really started disliking Tony Stewart's, when he started pointing out the tire deal and bringing up Hoosier again. The Hoosier Goodyear wars in the early '90s was a big deal.
Well, look what happened. Hoosier showed up in Cup. They landed on the pole at Daytona with Jeff Bodine.
Right, exactly. Wow. And you know, so that's part that I started realizing. Okay, I know I blew a tire. I heard it blow. Watched the fender come off. I told the truth. Hey, I blew a tire. Well, you can't do that. Can't do that no more. You know. So I said, oh, okay. Now, then that's when I started figuring out all about the politics side. And you know, if I'll tell you something else too. If you watch these drivers in any of the NASCAR series, and I'm not dogging just NASCAR. There's the elite group, you know. But if you look at them and you see a driver standing out, kind of bitching and complaining about anything, you know, and there's some that do that. Kyle Busch did it every once in a while. You know, there's others that do it, but they don't like that at all, you know. And then when they do that, just kind of keep an eye on how they run weeks ahead of that or after that. You know what I'm saying? If that tells you anything.
Can I interject for just a second, Jeremy? We're up on the hour mark. Do you have time to keep talking? I'm worried about your time, not necessarily.
Yeah, man. I'm for whatever you guys want to do. This is your show, and I'm here to be on it, and I appreciate being on it. So
I'm interested on that last comment. How much, or you're almost leaning towards orchestration when you say how bad does that guy run the weeks after? Jimmy Spencer touched on that in the Dale Jr. download. Of course, him and Dale Jr. had their issue over the whole summer Daytona race where Dale Jr. won, and he was on the radio saying he's half throttle out front pulling away at a draft track. So, I mean, how much orchestration is actually going on?
Well, I mean, you're all over it. You're talking all around it. You know what I mean? And the fans aren't dumb, you know. And I think that you guys see what's going on. And what I meant by that was, you know, it happens a lot. You see a guy get caught for speeding, you know, down pit road, or something goes wrong or whatever. And they've got a lot of people are watching it more now, closer than what they used to. But and then you'll see a guy who gets caught for speeding come right back in and get him again. That's because he was on the radio complaining about him. You know, oh, I wasn't speeding, cussing the tower up there. Well, guess what? Oh, you got you again. You were speeding this time, going out too. So that's the kind of stuff that I never really liked and didn't understand. But hey, they got to have a good show, and that's what they've done. And you know, they're dealing with it now. You know, you can see.
I first started looking at that orchestration deal originally over gambling, because there's obviously a lot of money on the line, and if you can dictate a finishing order in any sort of way, you can move a lot of money.
Exactly.
What do you mean exactly? I'm on the gambling. I'm way past the guy in the tower being mad at you. I'm talking about moving a couple million in Vegas.
Right. And yeah, you can. I mean, I'm just talking here, just kind of stuttering here now, but you're exactly right. You know, I mean, it's like when you start doing that, where does it end at? You know, and
is there a guy above him?
Right. And you know, you can just say that. I mean, how many times have you seen a guy leading a race and at the end of the race he didn't win because caution came out and they regrouped him and he got beat? You know what I mean? Just things like that. But you know, I'm not saying maybe it was all legit. Maybe that somebody did have debris on the racetrack. I don't know, you know, but I know that if you look at the gambling side of it, it could be big.
All right. So back when you drove,
and I would love to talk more and tell you more about all that whatever I could tell you, but
we'll keep the mafia off your back tonight, bud. We'll keep the. I don't know what state you're in, but you might be safe. You might not. They may have outposts near. I don't know, buddy. I don't know.
See, and the thing about it is, it's like that. This is what got me where I'm at right now. You know what I mean? I wasn't afraid to say it like it was, and I'm not. You know, and I still believe that. You know, I'm gonna stand up for what I believe is right, and if it's right, I'm gonna fight for it. You know. And
All right,
you're
so
right. You're exactly right.
All right, Stacy Race Devil. Oh, he left. He got off there. He got booted off. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened just now.
The mafia got him.
Maybe I'll pop back on there.
The CIA got him. Where's he at?
Yeah, all right. His eyes.
Is he back? The AB got him on. Oh, we got him on camera now.
Yeah, I got him on camera and all. They're gonna show me everything.
Look what happens. We tell a little truth. We tell a little truth, and the mob. Elon Musk is involved in this.
I'm talking about taking out just like that. Now my red eyes. See, my eyes are burned up.
They're not that bad. They're not that bad. Hey, look. Here's how I look at things. If I'm not the ugliest guy here, I'm fine. I mean, Roy looks twice as worse than you. I'm telling you right now. I'm just playing.
Hey, isn't that funny how that just happened though?
I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I ain't telling you who I'm associated with. We're all buddies. No, I'm just kidding.
You just keep talking like you're talking. You'll find out real quick what's going on.
I've already found out. Unfortunately, I'm happy.
Like that,
There's a reason I'm living out of my car at a hotel like twice a week. I mean,
right. I have to run another one of our sponsor promos. So give me just a minute here.
Okay.
I gotta give a good shout out
to our listeners.
Go for it.
When we come back, go ahead.
All right. So give me 1 second and we'll get them on here.
Tired of calling multiple companies to complete your low voltage projects? Minimize the hassle by calling Workman Communications, your locally owned one-stop shop for all low voltage needs. We tackle everything from commercial and residential data, telephone cabling to access control installation, CCTV, alarms, and audio-video solutions. With no job too big or too small, we'll ensure your project will be completed to your standards with precision quality results. Let's start a new project together.
All right, hang tight for one more. I pushed the wrong button, so hang tight.
I would like to thank Lyle Hopper, Winning Attitude Motorsports in Paradise, California, for his great sponsorship of the Tri-State Pro Stock Series and myself. Lyle is a guy that can get you parts at the best prices available to you. He also provides setup help at the track. He can help you with engine information, engine tune-ups, diagnosis, things like that. For all your racing, chassis, and parts needs, contact Lyle Hopper at Winning Attitude Motorsports.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Chaz covered his face up.
I don't want to be found at all. I'm out. I don't want to be found.
I'm sure you'd be gone when we got back.
Oh no. Well, maybe.
I'll put these on.
It's all ninjas, guys.
This ain't Mayfield. It's somebody else.
Yeah.
Look, if you're worried about the mafia, you need to look up Northrop Grumman and BlackRock or a Carlyle Group. Those are some more important entities.
Exactly.
All right, Corey, you had something. Let's go for it, buddy.
One of our viewers, Ryan Cox, and I think this is good because I think when we get people like you on shows like this, we want to learn about you. Your career was, you had some great moments, but I want to learn about you. They want to learn about you. And he asked, who is your all-time personal favorite driver? And in your opinion, who's the greatest at the NASCAR level?
Let's see. Probably my favorite all time was, again, I liked a lot of them, and I was able to race against my heroes. You know what I mean? I was able to race against Darrell Waltrip, Earnhardt, Yarborough. Obviously, I drove for him, but didn't race against him. But there's a lot of good ones. I never really had a favorite. I know going into when I was racing the go-karts, I had, always looked up to Darrell and Earnhardt, and then it was Yarborough racing. So, and Allison's, they did a great job, but I always just liked them all, and I respected all of them. And then once I got there, I was able to race against them. And that's probably the best part of my career was I was able to watch them all those years. And then when I got there, raced against them. And then that's why I turned Earnhardt that day. I said, look, what would you have done? Last lap, last corner. I said, you pull up behind your all-time favorite, your hero. And I said, you drive behind him and he gets loose, messes up, slides out Monday, and then you drive under and win. I said, that's why I was excited, And then, that's just part of my career was like that. I was able to race against all of them, just have a good time. And I like them all. And I think the all-time great would definitely be Earnhardt just because not on the racetrack, but everywhere. He was cool, and he's the one that kept his ship sailing, and when he was gone, you see where it's at now. So
I'm a diehard Earnhardt fan, always have been, but I will say had Davey and Tim Richmond not passed so young, I doubt Dale's got 7 titles.
Right. You're right. I think you're totally right. I think Tim Richmond was great. Again, look at Richmond's career and look what all happened.
Right.
And, he was kind of different. He spoke his own, what his own mind and said what he had to say and, backed it up on the racetrack. But he was just different. It didn't fall into their little, like you were saying earlier, a little click. And then next thing you know, he's out, and Davey was that's just an accident, what he got into. But Davey was awesome. And he that's kind of like Chase Elliott. That Davey come from under Bobby Allison is Davey Allison. And you got Bill Elliott and you got Chase Elliott. Man, you were talking about earlier where your dad buys your way in and all this stuff, or your parents are rich and they get you a ride. Them two guys there learn from the best. Chase Elliott's going to be the best. And that's because he's had a great upbringing and, he's right there with his dad all the time racing. They race short tracks and learn how to race. And just you get a lot of wisdom there. And that's where Davey was at with Bobby, and he's definitely going to be one of the best.
Well, I do want to defend just a little bit. Chase Elliott, I do want to defend him just a little bit because I did get to talk to him for a pretty good while at the Bristol Dirt Nationals. He ran a super late model. I talked to him on camera, but I talked to him better off camera. And everything, I don't want to speak for him, but everything we're kind of talking about here, there was some things he knows, and then there's some things I was explaining and breaking down. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. I was trying to say how marketing teams try to make Brandon Overton look like a loser in the high school of racing, somebody who's one of the best in the world. But they manipulate it. They bring in young kids who are 14 from dirt to make dirt look like high school. So when you got a 25-year-old in a dirt late model, he's somebody who didn't beat that kid in dirt high school. He's somebody who couldn't make it to the next level. It's marketing. But and Chase Elliott admits he doesn't, it's hard for him to comment because he'll self-admit, I'm just a rich kid, got here on my daddy's name. I mean, he's telling me this to my face. I didn't see him saying that, but he's the type that says this.
Right.
I think Chase Elliott's good. I mean, obviously motorsports is where it is, but you referenced football a little bit earlier. How many of these guys are, how good would Johnny Manziel be if you outpriced the Tom Brady's and the Brendan Roethlisbergers and the Aaron Rodgers and, all of our starters in the NFL that didn't come from this prestigious lifestyle, if they weren't even in the league,
right?
These other guys who aren't even on their level skill wise, but had the money, they could be Tom Brady because you can outprice the Tom Brady of racing.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I just think that Chase is a little different because he, as you well know, when talking to him, he's a good dude. He's a good guy and he's well spoken and he's he understands that. He understands the sport because his dad went through all that stuff. And Bill was very good about seeing through a lot of stuff, and Bill's a great guy. And I just think Chase just had to deal with having that type of, he might not have had all the money because money didn't buy him a ride, but his name might have bought it, or helped him get there. But he's backed it up and he's done a good job with that. And is very humble about it. Like he'll tell you straight up, and I think he's just done a totally different than what we were talking about earlier, but yet kind of the same situation.
Well, I'm not discrediting his talent either. I'm not saying he can't drive or he isn't one of the best. He is one of the best that they have, over there in the Cup Series. I just think when I speak to a new person about racing, I kind of say that Cup Series is probably the 7th easiest professional racing league in America, or maybe outside the top 10 when you equate a lot of other series that are out there. It's
if you get with one of the top 3 or 4 teams, it definitely is, and but yet, if you're with a low tier team, then you're happy with just making races and being there anyway.
Right.
So, I understand totally.
So, Stacy, who is, we're going to get into this in just a minute because there's some funny stories here. Stacy wants to know, do you ever get tired of somebody going, "Hey, Jeremy"?
Not at all. Not at all. And that's pretty cool. I hear that a lot too. That between that and the Earnhardt deal is probably the most things I've heard on probably about once a week. I hear about the Earnhardt thing, and the "Hey, Jeremy" I hear about every couple of weeks from somebody. But that was cool. And that's another thing. Back then, we were able to do those commercials and you just don't see that anymore, Harley. You see Denny Hamlin, I think, going to the FedEx place or whatever he's done or whatever it is with a little girl talking about pajamas or whatever. But you just don't see any good type commercials. And I was just fortunate enough to be there with Dodge and do those, and it just worked out great.
So now I know, Jeremy, we have talked to you about possibly coming out running November with the Pro Stocks. Now I have to tell you about Stacy's husband. He is a Hall of Famer out here. Everybody knows the guy that I'm fixing to bring up. So we are fixing to call him out.
Okay. Godfather.
The Godfather, Jerry, Mr. Controversy Bartlett.
Fairy wings.
He can't win nothing without his fairy wings and his Red Bull and his Viagra. I'm just calling it out right now. His thing is bump, bump, dump. That's his big story.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. If you're running behind the 00 car and you got a shot on him, are you going to bump, dump him? That's all I want to know.
Oh yeah, whatever it takes, And I'm not sure if he would get mad or whatever, but yeah, I definitely would. You got to do what you got to do,
See, JB,
yeah,
time to put your big girl pants on and come join us. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There you go.
You don't run a race and just because he's the legend or whatever. You just got to do what you got to do to win the race if you can.
Yeah, JB is actually one of the coolest people you'll ever meet, and
is that who we're bumping and dumping?
That's who you're bumping and dumping. Don't forget it. And the Trump 2020 car's going down, JB. He just said you're out of luck, sir. You can't keep up.
Look at this, Chaz. He's trying to start a fight. We haven't got to the race yet.
Hey, I mean, I had a very interesting time racing against Jerry B. I had a more interesting time with the vehicle I was in. I will continuously say, but hey, I mean,
so Chaz, you race, you run late model stuff or what?
I tried to start racing last year because I got so popular on my Facebooks and talkings and everything. And I used to weigh 450 pounds. I lost the weight to kind of race. And then I got popular and people were like, well, why don't you try racing? Roy was the first one to offer up. We actually went, I hadn't been in a car. I hot lapped a sprint car 3 years ago. It was a 360, but it was like literally driving around to sprint car on a track. It was, right. I didn't look bad. I looked okay. We go to practice his pro stock and it breaks with the other guy running it. And then luckily a guy said, well, if you need to, we was walking around. I was like, I need to get some laps and something. I ain't been in a car, really at all my whole life. And so a guy with the IMCA mod let me do a few laps, and on the ticker, I was a little quicker than him, even though I spun the car out once. By the end of it, I was quicker than him. So I was kind of optimistic. And then we got to the track and new track, and car was just a little too tight for me. And then there was a big second lap in the heat race. There's a pile up the size of the track, pretty much. Antioch's pretty skinny track. Yeah. And I had to go high to avoid it. And I went up in the mud. It slid the front end, got into the wall, and the drive shaft fell out. But luckily, 2-3 weeks after that, and I got into an IMCA mod in Arizona and ran well. Was a hard charger from the back to 13th. Then I almost won my next race where I burned my leg, but I almost won in Iowa. And then I ran some of those big block style modifieds up in New York last year. But they're the most, honestly, out of all the cars I've sat in, they are the most comfortable race car. A sprint car is very uncomfortable because your legs are behind you. Whereas the big block, you sit just like a sprint car, but your legs are forward. You're out. Your pedals are forward. So you're upright, but your legs, it's almost like a comfortable seating position. But I've wanted to race since. It's just hard to get people to throw people in race cars. I ran a go-kart a couple weeks ago. That was for fun. But go-karts, you can do it anywhere, but I want to, but it's hard to find race cars to jump in. I'm sure. Well, you may have a little easier of a time, but it's hard for somebody talking shit on Facebook. Yeah, come and jump in my $80,000 late model, and have fun. It's just,
the bigger the show gets, the more people are going to be listening. You'll get a chance one day. They'll throw you in.
Well, I think versus matches, pay-per-view almost is the way to go. Build some stuff up. That's why people were putting me into cars. I was bringing attention to their series and their tracks. Like Roy and the Tri-State reached so many people through me talking about it, and then the big block people, they reach people. Hell, they got 3. I just found out 2 weeks ago, actually, we kind of ended on bad terms. And I'm sure you've had that where car owners end up being, not who they portray themselves as. And at the end, you want to get out. That's kind of how that ended. I found out 2 weeks ago he's got 3 sponsors that I brought to his team still on the car, getting money from him. So
I tell you what I got. I tell you what I got. I got a couple late models, and I got a dirt late models. They're crate cars. One's 602, one's 604. And you talk good about us on your show, and keep this thing going. Who knows, man? I might put you in one of those one day.
We're gonna have to connect. I'll send you this episode. So when I race, I make shows. I don't just do a race. I make a show. I build it up. I find what I try to do is I find one guy and with Roy, it was Jerry. I try to find one guy who's okay with me, talking shit to him a little bit online. And then I just go stone cold on him and make music videos and all. So by the time the race actually happens, I mean, there's people from all over tuning in, wanting to see what's about to go down, and
Jeremy, I got to interject here. Stacy just said if Jeremy bumped Jerry, it would be like the Earnhardt Love Fest all over again, LOL. But he'd have to deal with me afterwards, LOL. Jerry isn't feeling too good, but now, and I just went out and gave him some Geritol to make sure he's on here now. And Steve Austin wanted me to throw the challenge out to you for November.
I'll tell you what. As far as that goes, as far as Jerry, I know the women are normally in charge, and I've learned a lot over the years.
Oh my God! Oh, that's not. Don't tell me that's a crock pot situation. That's a crock pot. You don't want to cook that crock pot, if you know what I'm saying. I'm a sprint car fan. Don't tell me.
But and I'm not saying I wouldn't spin him, return him, whatever I got to do. But usually, because my wife's the same way, she's right when she's telling me stuff. So I'm sure Jerry's wife's right. And now I've already got her mad at me by talking on the radio or on the podcast here. So don't be mad at me. I won't be too rough on him, but I won't turn him or do anything dangerous anyway.
All right. So we have another one. It's not confirmed. We're trying to put together.
Is Chaz going to be in there too? What's he going to run that race or what?
No, they don't. They don't have enough vehicles available. So. They got them for the stars. They don't got them for the Chaz. No,
we got a vehicle for you. We have a vehicle for Joey Keltner, and we have a vehicle for Steve Austin to come out.
Right.
And Steve Austin wanted me to ask you, are you going to get mad at him if you do the same, if he does the same thing to you that you did to Earnhardt at Pocono?
No, I wouldn't be mad at him.
That's right.
So I wouldn't be mad at him. I'm just trying to figure out how he's going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that can happen.
My goodness.
You got to be on the bumper to do that.
Got to catch him. Got to catch him first.
You got to be hammered down, right?
That's right.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Corey has been and done a show with his team at one of our pro stock races, and he is going to tell you, Corey, tell him what he is in for with this group. He has no clue.
I've said this since day one. Jeremy, you've been there. Listen, get ready for an IROC type deal on dirt. I'm telling you that right now. You might be leading lap number 5, and then lap number 7, you're sitting 12th. 2 laps later, you'll be sitting 3rd. I mean, it's phenomenal racing. It really is. You're gonna have your hands full.
It sounds like we're gonna need a better car.
Yeah. I was just about to say. I was just about to say. He says IROC. All the cars are equal in IROC, and y'all literally brag that all the cars are different. So I mean, one's a leaf spring, one's a J bar, one's a 4-link. I mean, come on now. Don't say IROC. Cars are not equal.
If I go from 1st to 12th, back to 3rd, back to 5th, we're gonna have to work on it.
That's right. Well, so you're racing on dirt. So you got your track experience coming into this deal,
right?
What chassis are you in, and what type of series? What are you doing back there with dirt late models?
Yeah, I'm just running the crate stuff right now, and hopefully move up to like the limiteds or in the supers. I'd be running supers right now if I had a $50,000 motor. You know what I mean? If I had the money to build have a good motor like they got and the tires and all that stuff. But I'm on a poor boy's budget here. I'm like Chaz down here. I'm just barely making it, Right. And but we're running the crate stuff and have a lot of fun doing it. And I tell you what, racing down here is like it's strong as ever. Especially the dirt track stuff. The asphalt stuff is going away, like you said. You were definitely right on that. But the dirt stuff is just wide open. I mean,
you're spending too much money on shocks and that crate stuff. I mean, they got so many of those money shows coming. I mean, I can only imagine back to the smaller local cliques in politics. They're letting certain drivers dope their tires too.
Probably. Right. So, see, we don't ever do that. We just kind of.
I wasn't implying you, but that every little bit matters on those crate cars. It's unreal. I mean, you ain't breaking the tires loose. You're hooked up, so it's all race car.
Yeah,
well,
sure
you compare a dirt late model to a cup car, you better know what you're doing on a dirt late model, because cup cars they're slugged, everything's pre-measured, versus getting on a dirt car and having to figure out the 4-bar and the shocks and all the geometry that comes with it.
Right.
Way more complicated than a cup car.
Now,
It really is.
Were you, Jeremy, at Cochran when they put Brad Keselowski in the best crate late model in the state, and he got lapped twice in the A main, and they he didn't qualify through the B, but at the end, all of a sudden, instead of taking 2 cars, we're taking 4 because he finished dead last in the 4-car B.
Right.
And he got lapped twice.
Yeah, I watched it on YouTube. I seen that. Yep.
Twice.
But I mean, I got to say too that going from the cup car to the dirt, I started off on dirt track too. I've run dirt races a lot, quite a few times as far as my career goes. But if you're only running asphalt all the time and jump into a late model, it's definitely an experience. So like you said, the cars roll up on the left rear and down on the right front, and that's totally opposite of what we're looking for in a cup car. You want your cup car to feel left side down, in the racetrack, and you can't get that on dirt cars. So
and I think we see a lot of examples of dirt guys being able to transition to y'all, and I think that's where my kind of stance. Well, bring him over here. He gets lapped twice. Steve Kinzer got 7 races. You were probably around. Steve Kinzer was a World Outlaw champion, and and in my opinion, to discredit him, NASCAR did this.
Right.
They put him in a new race team car for 7 races.
Right.
And said you're junk, get out. That's all he got, So when Brad Keselowski comes over and gets lapped twice, I'm treating him just like they treated Kinzer.
Right.
It's like you come on and perform or you get kicked out, and that's how all of our dirt guys get treated. Hell, you could be Bobby Pearson, go kick their ass. They still want $3 million next year.
Right. Well, let me give you one more example real quick. I hear what you're saying, Chaz, but then you look at Bloomquist. He come over to the SRX series and
he won the heat.
Well, yeah, but that heat race they ain't running hard.
I thought he broke in the main.
No, he didn't break. He got straight to the back.
Well, that would still apply. That would still apply straight to the cars. I'm not disagreeing with you there. I'd like to talk to you. The cars. That's why I hate the trucks. They're not dirt. I call the truck race on dirt transgender because you just change the skirts and they're all of a sudden another thing.
Right.
No, they're not.
Right.
It's not a dirt car.
Right, but what happens is you take Bloomquist, the guy that's got all the experience won races, and put him in like a SRX or a truck like you're talking about, and you're trying to get that feel that he's always got in his late model, and you can't get that. So that's a huge disadvantage for them too. I agree with you on that.
I understand the transition. Yeah. Hell, I'm sure there was a transition between the Gen 4 and the Gen 5 car. In my opinion, the Gen 4 car was the last true NASCAR race car there was. If you think about it, I call them bullet cars, but.
Yeah, but and then you look at that going, why we got Gen 4, Gen 5 cars tomorrow? Why they got all that? It doesn't make sense. It hasn't done anything to the sport, but to keep going more just
whoever manufactures all of it, whoever manufactures all the parts and all the pieces is who's banking the. It's just like the safer barrier was a great safety innovation. Yeah, sure it was, but. I think it's $850 per square foot. Go ahead and add that up around every NASCAR track, and then tell me how much money somebody just made.
Right.
So, I want to interject right here because we're coming up on the hour and a half mark, and I don't want too much of a good thing. I'll always leave it. Can we schedule another time for you to come on here?
Heck yeah, man! Anytime. You let me know, and I'll be on here. For sure.
Before we close, Roy, there's a great question here from Santa Maria dirt track announcer Mike Patterson. Says he wants to see Jeremy in the XRX series next year. With your connections, Jeremy, can you get that done?
Well, here's what I'm suggesting. Is I would love to do it, and I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd go right now and start working on my car if I had to, whatever it took. But what we need to do is either tag or email or somebody at CBS Sports, Ray, Tony. I need all my fans to do that. To everybody just create these little hashtags and everything to send to SRX or CBS Sports, anybody. And that'll help us for sure.
I think we'd all.
Okay, I want to interject real quick. Roy, you're cruel. Roy, what you just did is like the best girl you could be with, and then right before it's over, just like done. You got to give us some prequel on this. Like, okay, how about each one of us get like, how about you tell us it's almost over, and then we each get to say one thing or ask one more last thing, and then it's over. How about the girl tell me, all right, let's do this, and then bam, let's go home. Instead of just jumping up and running out the room. That's bull.
Your trial subscription has ended. Your trial subscription
you go ended. No, screw it. Exactly. Whatever, Jeff Bezos. How about you fly into outer space with your giant penis? Shut the hell up. All right.
I got one.
All right, go, Roy, or Jeremy. You ask all of us.
Let me go real quick. Let me go one more time. As far as all that goes, here's something else that that Chaz, all you guys know this already. But nowadays, it's not about the money for me because I don't have money to buy myself any of these rides like that. But it's about followers. It's about getting your people following behind you, and you all know that. You're following on social media. Everybody knows that, and that's what I need to get behind me is getting the people that do follow me to make a difference and just keep staying at these people to let us in.
We will do what we can to help with that too, Jeremy.
Reach down in the bottom left hand of the screen and hit the share button. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, hit the share button. Now, I'm going to tell you, Jeremy, I have somebody coming on the show in about 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
He may be watching tonight, and it's somebody you know, and I am excited, and I'm going to announce it now.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Renzi.
Okay.
Do you know who he is?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay, Ed Renzi is coming on the show. For anybody that doesn't know who he is, he was the CEO of McDonald's. He was the CEO of Dave's Famous Barbecue, and now he's the CEO of Fat Brands. He had a Cup team, an Xfinity team, and a truck team.
Yeah.
He is connected. I'm going to bring it up and tell him, sign the petition, sir.
Right. That'd be great. That'd be super. That's what we need,
Yep.
So, because we got a lot of people on our side, and we got a lot of people pulling for us, and that would definitely that'd be right at the top. That would definitely help us.
Stacy Race Devil just put on there, after listening to this whole interview, I'll be the first to say, Bartlett, Trump, Mayfield 2024 or whatever. It says I'd even vote for Mayfield Chaz in 2024. Just saying.
That sounds good, man.
Hey, how about Jeremy Mayfield versus the Chaz in a late model? I got that crazy Kevin Powell. I don't know if you know crazy Kevin Powell.
This is gonna happen this way.
Do you know who crazy Kevin Powell is? That crazy
I knew
Kevin
Powell tonight. Me and you were going to be racing each other somewhere. I just had a feeling.
Well, it would have to be strategically done. I don't do anything that doesn't work. So, I hear you on the followers. Roy knows this. I'm still mad at Facebook because I had 20,000 followers, and I went to Daytona, and talked crap to them while they were racing.
See,
somebody took that clip, put it on TikTok, and it got like 6 million views. And then next day, my personal Facebook is taken down, which was the only admin of the page. The Chaz page itself, this is a second one where I've already built followers back up who remember me. The Chaz page itself with 20,000 followers is just sitting on Facebook right now without anyone running it.
I've been through the same thing, man. But here's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you're worse than I am.
It sounds like to me. No, it sounds like to me you didn't have social media. If you would have had social media, and people like to talk crap about social media, but if you would have had social media back when everything was happening, you could have said that Betty Crocker was, making macaroni cheese, and everyone would have knew the truth. But you didn't have social media. You wasn't able to put your truth, your thoughts out there. The mainstream media, which hates social media, controlled the narrative.
Right.
They controlled the narrative back then.
Well, the good thing about it, though, you're like Trump. They took his away, too. Took yours and his. So
that's not good. Well, I ain't got the billions behind me to recoup and just sit back and play golf. It's
right. Well, we just got to figure out how to rebuild that and get it back up there,
Yeah, well this is the first step, I guess.
Keep doing
it, Jeremy.
It's awesome.
We can all do it together,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We'll do what we can to help you out. I think what you're doing is awesome. You went through some hard times and you fought back, and here you are, and you're still doing it, man. Keep it up. We're backing you.
Hey, I appreciate it.
We're all in your corner, sir. Thank you for coming on and taking your time with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. And Chaz, I'll be talking to you soon. We'll figure out something on the slate model deal.
Hey, that's where. Hey, Kyle Larson will be there. I'll say that right now. Hey, I will text Larson tonight and be like, "Look, bitch, come get in this late model so I can wax that ass. Go get your Kevin Rumley and all them, and we'll bring them down there. I'll whoop his ass in front of everybody. We need to get what needs to happen on something like that. You have to get your own pay-per-view network and sell pay-per-views because these broadcasting companies are making way more money. The one thing keeping dirt racing from Fox News is Dirt Vision and Flow. You think they want to give that money away that they're making right now? Hell no, they don't want to give that money away now.
Let's start one. We'll all get to go together and start our own.
All right. Roy's saying bye. Roy's saying bye. Kyle's laughing at the Betty Crocker was making mac and cheese reference I said there a minute ago. That's good.
Kile
That's
Kaercher.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Just call me anytime you want. We'll get back on here.
All righty.
Hang tight, Jeremy.
Okay.